All right, so this is our inventory project, and we start with a global variable, starting items in inventory. It's all caps, meaning it's global, and constant, which means it won't change value over the course of our program. First thing we do is create a num items variable and set it equal to starting items inventory. And we do that because starting items inventory is global, meaning that it should not change value over the course of your program. But this one here should change value over the course of your program because we are using it as the Boolean expression inside of our while loop. So in our while loop, we are going to print this out. We're going to ask the user to enter in the number of items they want to buy, and then we want to iterate. And eventually this is going to be true, and we want this to stop, and it's going to say all done, right? Something like that. So how do we get this to happen? Well, when we first start, num items is equal to 20, right? And our num variable is going to be equal to how many they want to buy. So let's say I enter in 5, right? So what should happen right here before the while loop iterates? Well, num item should not be equal to 20 anymore. It should be equal to 15, right? So how do we make it equal to 15? Well, we need to say num items is equal to a new value. And so what's going to be the new value of num items? Well, num items is going to be what we call a counter, right? A counting variable. And how does a counting variable work? Well, let's say we have some kind of a while loop, and we want a variable to count how many times that while loop has iterated. So I'm going to say var count equals 0. Inside of the while loop, I'm going to say count is equal to count plus 1. Alternatively, you could say count plus plus. These two lines are equivalent. This is shortcut for this. Okay. And so what's going to happen here? Well, let's say the while loop iterates 3 times. The first time through, it does count plus 1, and count is equal to 0. So it does 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Count's equal to 1. It iterates again the second time, and it does count plus 1. And what's count equal to now? Well, it was equal to 0 before, but now it's equal to 1. So it does 1 plus 1. So that's 2. Count's equal to 2. And then it iterates the third time, and it does count plus 1. Now count was equal to 0. It was equal to 1. And then it was equal to 2. Right now it's equal to 2. So it does 2 plus 1 is 3. Count's equal to 3. And then it breaks out of that while loop. So what's count going to be equal to at the end of the while loop if the while loop iterated 3 times? Well, count's going to equal to 3. Right? So this is a counting variable. Now, how do you make a counting variable? Well, it has a formula. The way it works is you create the variable and initialize it to its first value outside of the loop. And inside of the loop, you have it on both sides of the equal sign. And you add or subtract however much you want to count by. Usually it's 1, but you could also count by 5, right? Or you can also count by negative 5, right? Or you can count by 15. Right? So whatever you add or subtract here is how much that variable is going to increase or decrease by. So here, that's how you make a counting variable, and that's what we want to do here, right? Except our num items variable is not going to count how many iterations the while loop runs. It's going to count by however many items they want to buy. Okay. So right here, when we have num items equal to 20, they enter in 5, and we want num items to now not be 20 but to be 15. How do we do it? We have num items on both sides of the equal sign, and we add or subtract however much we want to count by. And so in our case, we want our num items to start at 20 and decrease until it gets to 0. So how do we do that? We need to subtract num from it. So this is going to iterate. So let's say I type in 5. Num items is going to be 20 minus 5. So num items is going to be 15. it iterates again. Let's say I enter in 15. I hit enter and num's equal to 15. It's going to do 15 minus 15. Num items is equal to 0. It's going to come back up. This is not going to be true anymore because 0 is not greater than 0. And it's going to break out and it's going to say all done. Okay. So that's the starting point of how to get this project completed. But there's a couple more issues that come up. Like, let's say I come into the while loop the very first time and I enter in 100. I want to buy 100 items, right? So then it's going to come here. It's going to do 20 minus 100. That's going to be negative 80. Num items is going to equal negative 80. It's going to get to the bottom. This is not true, right? Negative 80 is not greater than 0. So it's going to break out and say all done. Now it shouldn't, right? If you looked at the description, it should error and it should say not enough items in inventory, and it should not do this calculation. Right? It should only do this calculation if a certain condition is true. And so when should it do this calculation? What is the condition going to be for the program to allow this to happen? Well, I'll let you figure that out. And if you remember to say, we want to say if right here, right? So only do this line of code if this condition is true. And we could probably say else error, right? There's like an error message as well. Right? So if this is true, then do this. Else, we're going to print out an error message, not do this, and it's going to come back up, and num items is going to be the same value it was the first time, right? So that's kind of a starting point, and hopefully it gives you direction. If you have any further issues, let me know, and we could talk about them as they come up.